let us know. Do you have BB? I have Bud Johnson sitting here with me.
Dick Buckley, I do have BB King, and just before he heads on downstairs, let's take a moment. What a wonderful set. How did that feel out there?
I felt terrific. A fantastic audience. I was scared before we got into it.
You were scared? You've seen crowds this big. What were you scared about?
Well, normally it's seldom that I get a chance to work with an all-star group. Generally, I have my own group, so which are usually, very comfortable. But with an all-star group,
Well, you had some of the best soloists in the blues and jazz tradition and the history of the music behind you. Did it get a little more comfortable after those first couple of tunes? Because it sounded it from out here.
Oh, yeah, but at first it was like meeting God.
Well, I imagine there are a few people on stage and in the audience who might have said the same thing about having you out there. Thanks very much, B.B. King, for being part of our broadcast and part of our party.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure for me. I really loved it. I wish I could do it again sometime.
Well, there you have it, folks. B.B. King has expressed a desire to come back, and perhaps that'll actually happen pretty soon. Dick Buckley, you're on the other side of the stage, and you have one of those godlike legends of the Kansas City, Chicago, Texas tenor blues jazz tradition sitting right with you.
Right. Bud Johnson came over to say a few words to the people. Bud, I know you've just come back from the Jazz Festival tour of Europe. You've probably seen a lot of crowds. Any of them as enthusiastic as this one?
I tell you, I think Chicago is about tops. The setting is so beautiful, and I think that the people just love to come out and sit amongst the stars, and you have such a wonderful bandstand, Shell, and they treat you so gracious here. This is about the best one I've played, to be honest.
Bud, just last week, I did a radio program with two jazz musicians, Bud Freeman, who is 78 years old, and Art Hodes, who is 79 years old.
Yes.
Where do you rank in there, Bud?
Well, they have me a little bit. I'll be 74 December 14th of this year.
I know that you've got some mileage on you, but you don't change and you don't show it, and you're still just playing beautifully.
Thank you. In fact, I was with Bud Freeman yesterday, and he's an old friend of mine, and he's a Chicago musician, isn't he? He's born here and raised in Chicago, and of course, I first heard him here in Chicago because I lived in Chicago for almost 15 years, back in the old Earl Hines days, and I played around with a lot of the groups and gigs and starved a little bit here too during the Depression years. But it was all, I could never forget Chicago.
You were, wasn't it in Chicago where those Louis Armstrong sides were cut when you were?
Yeah, I joined Louis' band here in 1933. And I was with him for almost a year.
You and your brother Keg?
My brother Keg and Teddy Wilson. We were, Teddy Wilson, Keg, my brother, and myself, we all were roomed together in the same house. A lady's house on South Parkway named Miss Otter. And we were roomed and boarded there. And what a wonderful lady she was. And we used to sit and play cards and have a good time and practice and rehearse all the time together and make a few gigs. And we finally got a job to go to the Villa Venice on the other sides of Nile Center there. And, of course, those were some rough days. And
that was right in the midst of the Depression, wasn't it?
Oh, and we had to pass through the territory of the boss, And it was kind of rough. They had to escort us in and out of that place with machine guns.
Oh, wow. Bud, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and talking to the people. And you just sound great. You've always been one of my favorite tenor players.
Well, thank you so much.
Hope you go on forever.
I'd love to come to Chicago. I hope they invite me again.
We'll be looking for you next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bud.
All right.
Been talking to Bud Johnson, who appeared with Jay McShann in the All-Stars. Michele D'Amico is lost somewhere out in the crowd with a microphone, and I wonder, Michele, if you're there and if you have any estimate of the size of the crowd tonight.
Dick, I'm on the corner of Jackson and Columbus, and I've talked to Lieutenant John Campbell, who is the head of the entire unit out here, or the several units out here at Grant Park, and he tells me that he estimates between 60 and 70,000 people tonight. And would you believe that of those 60 to 70,000, there was not one incident to report tonight? The biggest problem the police seem to have were trying to keep the aisles clear, especially during B.B. King's concert.
We could see that.
Yeah, you saw that. And I also heard, I followed Lieutenant Campbell around for quite some time, and it seemed that there were a lot of people trying to climb onto the towers, the power towers, where we see all those speakers in front of the stage.
Yes.
Right. They wanted to get a good view because it was so impossible. All you saw were heads in front of heads in front of heads, and you couldn't see the stage very far if you were way behind the seats. So 50 to 70,000 tonight, not one arrest. And now I'm looking at traffic, and all we see are people who are just streaming past us right now, and there are no problems on Columbus Drive. There are no problems on Jackson. I see no slow-ups at all on Lakeshore Drive, and the concert's been over for a good 5 to 10 minutes. As a matter of fact, I'm right outside the driveway where B.B. King's limo is parked, and I think there are a bunch of people, well, I see a bunch of people standing beside me waiting for that limo to come out. By the way, about 10 minutes ago, the Reverend Jesse Jackson's station wagon left. It's been a great night, and there have been no problems, as I've mentioned, and the weather is perfect. If we see crowds of 50 to 60,000 tonight, I am certain that by the weekend we will get up to at least 100,000.
Oh, they'll be backed up to
more.
the lake. Yeah, it'll be something tremendous then. Well, that just pretty well wraps it up for tonight. The music mix engineer for tonight's broadcast has been Ken Rasick. Technical assistance has been provided by Bob Ferguson. Our tape engineer was Jerome McDonald. And our board engineer was Bob Bradley. WBEZ's chief engineer is Joe DeFranco.
Our floor director was Ken Davis, and tonight's broadcast was directed in the booth by Claude Cunningham. The executive producer for WBEZ's live coverage of the 1984 Chicago Kool Jazz Festival is the inimitable Nora Marino, and comestibles for our staff tonight were provided by the Azteca Currency Exchange Incorporated.
The Chicago Kool Jazz Festival is co-sponsored by the City of Chicago, Harold Washington Mayor, and the Brown and Williamson Tobacco Corporation. The festival is produced by the Mayor's Office of Special Events and programmed by the Jazz Institute of Chicago, a nonprofit organization.
And don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll bring you more first note to last note coverage, beginning with the Guy Fricano Jazz Inside Out group, Jimmy Dawkins Blues Band, the Salute to Swing with the group of All-Stars directed by Benny Carter, the Freemans, Vaughn and Chico and George and Bruz, and the Gil Evans Orchestra. Until then, I'm Dick Buckley.
I'm Michele D'Amico.
And I'm Neil Tesser. Thanks for being with us, and good night. This is WBEZ, Chicago 91.5 FM, and we're going to return to our studios where Felix Hernandez is waiting by with a brief time to play a little music.